With grilling season in full swing, it's time for something else than steaks on the grill. Nothing wrong with steaks, but I like some variety. Today I'm making basic souvlaki from a bone-in pork chop because they were on a super sale I just couldn't walk away from. Souvlaki by themselves are a nice addition to any grill party, but if you add a twist with a Turkish-inspired mint yogurt sauce, you have a definite winner. Historically, Greece and Turkey didn't really see eye to eye, but the food of the two countries is a match made in the Mediterranean. As I said, I'm using bone-in pork chops instead of a tenderloin or a shoulder cut, but we don't need the bones for this one. Don't discard the bones though, they make an excellent tonkotsu broth. I take off the bones and freeze them until I feel like a nice bowl of tonkotsu ramen. And if you want to know how to make that, let me know in the comments. I don't need all that much, 3 will do. I trim off the fat, because while you want some fat, you don't want just fat. So trim off the big pieces and then trim off the bones. With the bones trimmed off, cut the meat into good-sized chunks. Pork in the US is pretty lean, and lean leads to dry, and dry leads to disappointment. So don't go too small. 1 inch by 1 inch is probably the minimum you should do. I'm actually cutting a few strips. That way the skewer can go through lengthwise. Time to marinate the meat. You can go as short as 20 minutes, but of course a few hours or even overnight would bring a lot more flavor to the party. Let's get started on the marinade. Extra virgin olive oil. Crushed garlic. A lot of it actually. Then we need a decent amount of salt. Ground pepper. Vinegar. White or red wine vinegar would work. I'm using apple cider vinegar. If you want to add Italy to the mix, you can add a balsamic vinegar, which would bring some extra sweetness that goes quite well with pork. A spoonful of Dijon mustard. Maybe 2. A spoonful of paprika powder. And I want to have it extra smoky. I'm adding a little bit of smoked paprika powder. Finally, we need some herbs. I'm using fresh herbs from my garden, rosemary and oregano. If you don't have them fresh or don't want to use them fresh, dried is perfectly fine. Dried might actually bring a little bit more flavor than the fresh ones. Add these to our marinade and stir to combine. Time to toss in your meat, give it a good massage, and then let it sit for at least 20 minutes. Ideally, you planned ahead and did this yesterday and have a bowl of nicely marinated meat in the fridge. If you're only going for a short period, like 20 minutes to half an hour, you can actually leave it outside the fridge so the meat isn't that cold when you start grilling. If you do a longer period, let it marinate in the fridge and then pull it out about half an hour before you start skewering and grilling. And while the meat is marinating, why don't you give this video a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss another exciting episode. The meat has been marinating in the fridge for a few hours. Time to pull it out and let it warm up a little before we grill it. In the meantime, let's make the yogurt sauce. Nobody in Turkey would do what I'm about to do. Use a blender. I find it convenient though, and the resulting sauce is nice and green, versus when you just chop the ingredients, you have a white sauce with specks. The sauce consists of lime juice, and in this bowl I have the white part of a green onion. I have some jalapeno roughly chopped up. If you do not like this to be very spicy, just leave the jalapeno out. I have a whole bunch of mint leaves, and I have a clove of garlic. All this stuff goes into my little blender bowl here. Add a good pinch of salt. and about a tablespoon's worth of olive oil. And now just turn this into a liquid. Not much to look at, it's a green paste. Combine the blended greenery with your yogurt, preferably Greek yogurt or labneh. Taste for seasoning and set it aside to let the flavors mingle a little while we prepare the skewers. Pretty much every recipe I've seen about souvlaki and similar meat skewers is to mix the meat with vegetables. Don't do that. The result is always mediocre. Meat and vegetables have different cooking times and different heat requirements. So if the meat is cooked perfectly, your onion is burnt. Nothing wrong with vegetables on a skewer, but do yourself a favor, put them on a separate skewer because that gives you full control over cooking time and temperature. I'm just sticking the chunks on the skewer, simple as that. I'm only going to do a few because this is my dinner and therefore one portion. So I have more meat for later. Time to pop it on the grill. Let's head out. In case you're wondering, yes, I recently painted my house. Now here's a trick for grilling skewers. You use 2 metal pieces so you can suspend the skewers over the grill. That way they don't stick. Turn them often. You don't want to overcook the pork. Have a thermometer ready. You don't want to go over 140 degrees. Once they reach 140, pull them out. Once they're half cooked, you can take the supports out and put them directly on the grill. They won't stick anymore. And give those guys a really nice grill marks. Almost there. Time to grab a plate and pull them out. Cover the skewers with a tin foil for a couple minutes to let them rest. In the meantime, pop a pita bread into your microwave so it gets nice and warm, about 10 seconds. I've prepared a few companions, some lettuce, red onions, green onions and a red bell pepper. Cubed tomatoes would be great, but mine aren't ripe yet, so I'll do without. To assemble, take your bread, put a good dose of the sauce on the bottom. Take your skewer, pull it into the pita, and now just dress with your little condiments. And there is dinner. And if you want to know how to make tzatziki, which would be the traditional sauce used for souvlakis, you should watch my tzatziki video next. Let's see how it turned out. I want that at my next grill party.